It's 9:15, time for Kaleidoscope, which is devoted to the American singer and songwriter Loudon Wainwright III. He visited England recently, and while he was here, talked to Mark Steyn, picked up his guitar, and sang.
It was colder than a witch's tit, colder than a polar bear's nose, colder than the shoulder of my old flame, colder than hell heaven knows. Not quite as cold as you think it is when the wind chill factors blow. But centigrade and Fahrenheit, it fell way below zero. The electric duvet was cranked way up to 10, the gas fire was on full blast. When I get the bills from both of those boards, I don't know if the money will last. I was fully clothed in my entire wardrobe, and I still couldn't feel my toes. Then the flat pipes burst, and we had another first. The water in the toilet bowl froze. We got helicopter rescues and freezing old ladies, and the choo-choo trains won't go. On the M4 there's a 5-mile tailback, a lorry's jackknifing in the snow. And it's summer down under in Australia. What gets under my skin? On the TV they show a suntan cricketers, they're just rubbing it in. And the same thing happened here last year, but you don't want to know. In England people walk around wearing raincoats and running shoes in the snow. You don't wear no hat or gloves, it don't make no sense. You still think with that silly umbrella you can conquer all of the elements. It was the coldest day on record, in the coldest week in memory. It was the coldest month in the coldest year, on the coldest night in history. But don't ask me how cold it was, you don't want to know. But centigrade and Fahrenheit, it fell way below zero. I'm talking centigrade and Fahrenheit, it fell way below zero.
Loudon Wainwright III playing a song from his new album Therapy, the first of several he'll be singing on today's Kaleidoscope. As you'll gather from his name, never mind the song, Loudon Wainwright III is one of those American singer-songwriters. Born in North Carolina, heard Bob Dylan, hitched his way cross-country with his guitar, and back in 1972 even had a Billboard Top 40 hit called Dead Skunk. But if you listen to that opening song closely, you'll notice some very odd things. The M4, cricketers on TV, the umbrella being the only defence against the weather. At Loudon, there seem to be more and more British tinges creeping into your songs these days. So why is this?
I've spent a lot of the last 5 years in London. I have been here a lot, and some of the songs have English or London references to them.
There's a kind of romance about the singer-songwriter. You know, all those wonderful images of American songs, those, Woody Guthrie things, songs about taking a train and all the rest of it. All the imagery of songs seems to come from America, whereas Britain seems rather drab in contrast. It's difficult to write a song about taking the train from Birmingham to Manchester. It doesn't seem quite the same, and yet you seem to be attracted to things here.
It's that decay thing that's happening here. I don't know, it just fits into my sensibilities.
What, the decay of Britain?
Yeah, everything's broken here. I love that.
I wonder, though, because I always like to think that you fellas with guitars and jeans come from, somewhere out in the vast Midwest of America, but you don't have that background at all.
No, I grew up in the Northeast, in the suburbs, in a affluent community, a little town called Bedford Village in Westchester County, about 40 miles north of New York City. I had plenty to eat and wasn't riding freight trains or picking cotton. I was going to boarding school and mowing lawns. What I do is I write about where I'm actually from. I always wanted to be a performer. Because my father was a journalist and a very prominent one, wrote for Life magazine, people would always ask me if I was going to be a writer, and I immediately said no. I didn't want to get into that thing. So in the late 60s, when I picked up a borrowed guitar and wrote my first song, I was surprised that I could put words together and write. It was exciting. So I immediately started to write a lot of songs. You know, I use the same 15 chords that I knew when I was 15, really. The emphasis is obviously on the singing and the words, the writing. And again, I mentioned that I wanted to be a performer. I think that these songs are really written to be performed. The exciting thing for me is to play the songs for people and to somehow grab them.
It turns out that your father had at least one song in him. He tried that kind of writing as well as his journalism.
Yeah, he wrote this song probably in 1956 when I was about 10. He loved music and also couldn't really write, but he could play a few piano chords. And he wrote this song called Handful of Dust, which he had envisioned a woman singing, some, you know, sexy black woman like Eartha Kitt or Billie Holiday. And I can remember as a kid him singing this at parties that my parents would have. And this year my father was very sick and eventually died. And in the time that we spent together before he died, I remembered it, and I asked him about it, and he sent me the lyrics. I realized what great song lyrics they were. So I kind of fashioned a tune, which is largely based on what I remembered the original tune was. You got a car, a wife, a gal downtown. You got a place to lay your body down. You got money in your pocket. You can eat around the crust. But a man is just a handful of dust. You take the best of everything I got and take it all, still want I don't know what. But you're a star about to tumble, a balloon about to bust, and a man is just a handful of dust. You devil-driven graveyard stuff, highest flying, play the clown. Ain't no flying 6 feet down. No place worth going, ain't already been. No sin worth sinning, ain't already sinned. You get thunder in your loving and lightning in your lust, but a man is just a handful of dust.
You can easily imagine, you know, someone like Lena Horne singing it. Is that the kind of musical background you grew up with? Did your father have any particular musical tastes?
Yeah, he had good musical taste. I can remember hearing Lead Belly records in our house and talking about this lyric thing. The great show tune writers, you know, Frank Lesser.
Guys and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls and Rodgers and Hammerstein, you know, South Pacific and Lerner and Lowe. Real craftsmen, just great songwriters. And those records were played constantly in our house. So I think I was very affected by that at a young age, and then when the whole folk rock thing entered into my consciousness, as it did in everyone's consciousness, you know, at the time when it came out, it kind of melded with these kind of so-called straight Broadway writers.
Is there an element of contradiction there? Because there was a feeling around that somehow in the early 60s, Dylan and a lot of these other folk performers were blasting away the elements of the commercial New York-centered music business, dominated by big publishing houses and big record companies. Did you feel that there was a kind of attractive innocence about that folk scene?
I did. I mean, thank God for that minimalist, real, all of a sudden people were writing about not just the clever Moon, June, Spoon things, but were writing about what was happening, man, you know, be it taking drugs or the Vietnam War or the Civil Rights Movement or what it was like to be a junior James Dean or Marlon Brando. You know, it was a very exciting thing. When I saw him play Bob Dylan, I mean, it was amazing. And yet I know that he himself was very affected by these Broadway guys, because these guys were great songwriters. But at that time, you know, there was a guy that wrote the lyrics generally, and then there was a guy that wrote the tune. The song had to work for a Broadway audience.
Yes, and I would have thought that although you say you admired Dylan and you know, people who wrote about the Vietnam War or anything, in many ways you are a Moon June man, but just slightly more acerbic, surely.
Well, when the Vietnam War was going on, I wasn't down there protesting. I was just living my silly little life. I never wrote a song about the Vietnam War. My songs are not conventionally topical or political. Well, what I write about is my cheesy little life, basically.
It's fair to say that you deal pretty bluntly with some of the more physical aspects of romance.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the music that I'm making is not what radio wants to play or I guess what people want to hear, except for a small percentage.
But you must know, when you write a song like Synchronicity, which deals with lesbianism in part, you must know that that's not the sort of thing that's going to get played on radio stations. To a certain extent, it must be an indulgence to write it.
Yeah, I know it's not going to get played on the radio, except for on some really cool radio stations, but I like the idea. It's what I wanted to write about. It's something that really happened. That's what I have to work with, what really happens. This is kind of a be real type thing. And there's also a perverse part of my nature, which kind of, a little schoolboy in me, which kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. In the 70s, you know, I was on this big record label called Arista, and I wrote a song, and there was a line in it that said, who needs love, who wants romance, I want to eat your underpants. And this is before edible underwear. You know, and they all told me, change it, it's just not, you know, no one is going to play it. And there's a kind of a stubborn thing in me that wants to do it anyway, and maybe it's silly and provocative for the sake of being provocative. I don't know, it's just a tendency that I have, and I choose not to curb it.
Underneath the edible underwear, though, are you a romantic?
I don't know. I write a lot of songs about men and women and sex and romance, and like most people, I'm obsessed with all that stuff. I don't understand any of it. It's a great mystery, and I write about it again and again and again and again.
Well, you said only really cool radio stations play Synchronicity. We're as cool as they come here on Radio 4, so let's hear it.
Little did I know, though, I probably should have guessed, by the way you walked and talked and spoke and smoked and dressed, you actually seemed to like me, and so naturally I presumed you were after that thing. That's the one thing that's assumed. So I wined and dined you. Hey, I love that kind of stuff. And we blabbed about our backgrounds and how family life is rough. We spoke of what we wanted, what we thought of, what we did. Midway through the second bottle, I admitted I had kids. But nothing seemed to throw you, though I know you better now. At the time, my minor crime was figuring out how to get you in my hotel room unclothed and in my bed and proceed with the unspeakable. It's better left unsaid, so pick it. We went to see a friend of yours and watched me on TV. Sheer coincidence, you say, synchronicity. A full moon on a Friday night, the 13th of July. A man, two women in a room, and on the screen the guy. Your friend, she loved me on the show, yeah, she was snowed for sure. Her body language got obscene, her demeanor less than pure. You started venting something, wearing spleen upon your sleeve. You got kind of nervous, sort of anxious, had to leave. You told me on the freeway that you didn't sleep with men. I put two and two together, then I asked about your friend. It turns out she likes to hurt you, and although she loved my show, she too preferred the fairer sex. I absorbed the blow, absorb it, Junior. And it turns out that you did like men, but didn't like their things that hang down, and all the hang-ups being with Springs. My brother is so practical, this is what he said. You should have asked if it was cool to watch them both in bed. Yodelay.
Is there a song in any situation? Because I'm struck by a song like I Eat Out, for example, which I think the minute you hear the song, you think, oh, what a great idea for a song. But I wonder if at the time you were sitting in a restaurant on your own, you thought to yourself, well, there must be a song in this.
That's what happens when you travel around the world with a guitar by yourself. You see yourself in a motel room or in a restaurant, and I eat in restaurants by myself all the time, and it's an embarrassing, lonely, ridiculous situation. And when I have a strong feeling like that about anything, I think, well, maybe I should take a shot at writing a song about it. And that's how songs happen, really. I can cook a little, but it's not a lot to shout about. It's kind of mean cuisine. So I eat out. Hey, they know me at the creek and the chicken, the Itai and the Indian too. They all say, here comes that sad American man again. What are we gonna do? Well, you can put me at the table in the corner in the back unless you got one in a telephone booth. I'm here, I'm alone again, it's sad, but it's the truth. No, I'm not expecting anyone, is that beyond belief? Give me the menu, take away the candle, never mind the aperitif. They got a couple of couples, a trio and a foursome, even got a party of 8. I'm getting that look, I wish I'd brought a booker, better yet, I wish I'd already ate. You know that's impolite. What's the matter with you people? You're telling jokes and you're holding hands and you're talking with your mouths full. The waiter comes up and he asks me, how was it, sir? Is everything alright? The food's fine, but I feel like a fool 'cause I'm eating alone tonight. Don't say I was here at all. What would all my loved ones think? I'll take a check, no sweet, no coffee, no after dinner drink. Cook a little, but it's not a lot to shout about. Oh, it's kind of mean cuisine. So I eat out.
Underneath it all, that's actually a pretty sad little story. Do you always prefer to find a humorous angle to it?
When I first started in my career, I was kind of the angst-filled young man banging on the guitar. But then all of a sudden, you know, I'd pick up little titters in the audience. People would start, and I jumped on it like a dog on a bone. I mean, my instinct is to, oh, someone's laughing. Great, I love that.
Is it harder then to write a song like Your Mother and I Are Living Apart? Because it's one of those subjects, you know, addressed to a child that is in danger of tumbling into the most, you know, god-awful, mawkish self-pity if you don't keep a very tight rein on it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in the song it's addressed to a child, but the people that I'm really thinking about are the adults. That's something that's happened to me, that's happened to a lot of people. The broken family. It's a monumental thing that's happened to me in my life. And so, if it's monumental, I feel an obligation to take a crack at writing a song about it. So I did. Your mother and I are living apart. I know that seems stupid, but we weren't very smart. You'll stay with her, I'll visit you. At Christmas, on weekends, in the summertime too. Your mother and I are not getting along. Somehow, somewhere, something went wrong. Everything changes, time takes its toll. Your folks fell in love, love's a very deep hole. Your mother we can do to work this thing out and to take care of you. Families get broken, I know it's a shame. It's nobody's fault though, and you're not to blame. Your mother and I are both feeling bad, but things will get better, they won't stay this sad. And I hope when you grow up, one day you'll see your parents are people, and that's all we can be. Your mother and I.
There's such a wonderful sense of control that you have on that song. I wondered, just speaking technically for a moment, how easily that comes. Is it the sort of thing you dash off in an evening, or is it something you refine over several weeks?
Well, I said before that the songs are written for performance, and what usually happens with what I consider to be a good song is that they are written pretty quickly, in the space of an evening or a day or 2 days, some hours. And then there's an editorial process which takes place usually in performance. And if I go out and play the song and get the result that I want, then I know that the song is finished. If there's a laugh there that I don't want, then I change it. Or if there isn't a laugh that I do want, I change it. And that's generally how it works.
And you also seem to have what I think many people would find rather perverse affection for the kind of motel rooms and the touring life, because you've written what's really very elegiac poetry about an existence that a lot of people would find very hard to take for years on end.
Well, I find it hard to take, and yet when I stopped doing it, I kind of missed the Holiday Inns, and I spent a lot of time in hotels, and I've written a lot of songs about that, and on also being on the road. It's a very strange existence, and it's I don't know what it is. In this town, television shuts off at 2. What can a lonely rock and roller do? Oh, the bed's so big and the sheets are clean, and your girlfriend said that you were 19. The styrofoam ice bucket is full of ice. Yeah, come up to my motel room, treat me nice. I don't want to make no late night New York call. I don't want to stare at them ugly grass mat wall. Chronologically, I know you're young, but when you kissed me in the club, you bit my tongue. I'll write a song for you. I'll put it on my new CD. Come up to my motel room, sleep with me. Don't be afraid. I'll put up a sign to warn the cleanup man. Yeah, there's lots of soap and there's lots of towels. Never mind them desk clerk scowls. I'll buy you breakfast. They'll think you're my wife. Come up to my motel room.
And are you happy to continue? You wrote in one song the line, that you're too old to die young. Having blown that, are you faced with the prospect of continuing to tour and perform?
As I also say right after, there's nothing else that I can do, and I'm too old to die young. You know, I mentioned Leadbelly. I'm driving around Britain in this rent-a-car, and there's a tape deck in there, and I've got my hands on a Leadbelly tape. This amazing, the father of Woody Guthrie, who was the father of Bob Dylan, who was the father of me and John Prine and Bruce Springsteen and Michel Schacht and Tracy Chapman, and, you know, this continual history, this line of people banging on guitars and singing about their lives and what affects them. And I put this tape in this machine, in this car, and I'm on the M whatever it is, and this guy's banging away on this 12-string guitar, and it's funny and it's poetic. It's not poetry, though. I mean, he's not a poet. He's a songwriter. It's just wonderful, and I feel great to be part of that tradition.
Well, having taken it all back to where it started with Leadbelly, let's close with another one of your songs taking us into the home stretch. Loudon Wainwright III, thanks very much.
Thank you. If the day off doesn't get you, then the bad reviewer does. At least you've been a has-been and not just a never was. And you know it's not a mountain, but no molehill is this big. And you promised to quit drinking as you light another cig. Once again you're in the home stretch, but you're not sure where you live. You recall a small apartment and a government you give large amounts of money to, so you're allowed to stay and rest until you're well enough to leave again and play. The postcards that you send to the children of your ex-wives and a woman, your girlfriend, who is living in a city thousands of miles away, that is full of young male models, not all of whom are gay. In the meanwhile, you've stopped writing songs, there's nothing left to say. You'd like to get your old job back and mow lawns again one day, but keep lifting up your left leg and sticking out your tongue. There's nothing else that you can do, and you're too old to die young. Too many beds, too many towns, not much to declare on. London broils and tuna melts on dirty microphones. The sound man's fallen fast asleep. The light man's been up for days. The club owner and arithmetic have long since parted ways. As for your lovely audience, tonight they're rather cold, but they're prepared to listen. All they have to be is told. The day off doesn't get you, then the bad reviewer does. At least you've been a has-been and not just a never was.
Loudon Wainwright III on the home stretch with Mark Steyn. Blues from Motel Room was produced by Julian May. In Kaleidoscope next week, the joys of parenthood, as portrayed in a new film by American comic Steve Martin, the vices and follies of men and women caught by caricaturists, an appreciation of the composer, the late Sir Lennox Berkeley, and how television treats the police.